All right, back to Saudi Arabia, where the Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Michael Waltz are talking about their meetings with the Ukrainian delegation. Let's listen in.
Have instructed the appropriate members of their governments to bring this to finality and to conclusion. The second part of your question was?
Does the security assistance include?
No, there was one after that.
And the Zelensky relationship back on track.
Yeah. What's back on track here, hopefully, is peace. That's what matters the most. I know everyone's looking for who likes this is serious stuff. Okay, this is not Mean Girls. This is not some episode of some television show. This is very serious. Today people will die in this war. They died yesterday, and sadly, unless there's a ceasefire tonight, they'll die tomorrow. The president wants that to stop. That's what he's interested in here. That's why we came here. That's why we're grateful for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia hosting us here. And what we leave here with today is a commitment that the Ukrainians are ready to stop fighting. They're ready to stop the shooting so that they can get to the table and bring about peace for their country and for the world on the security.
Well, I mean, I just can't echo enough. President Trump's president of peace. That's what he's demanding, and he's willing to take tough measures on all sides to drive that home. And in terms of the security assistance, it's the current Presidential Drawdown Authority. I'll refer to the Defense Department on the eaches of what munition was where in the process, but it's the current PDA that will proceed to the Ukrainians.
All right, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, thanks for your patience.
Yeah.
You guys are all.
All right, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor there in Saudi Arabia, talking about their meetings with the Ukrainian delegation and the fact that they are hopeful that this will lead to some sort of peace agreement and finally a ceasefire in that country.
And the fact that Ukraine accepted the U.S. proposal for an immediate interim 30-day ceasefire contingent upon Russia also accepting could be extended if both parties agree. And the Secretary of State saying the ball's now in Russia's court. So now it's on Russia to prove that they, in fact, do want peace, which the president has said that he's received those positive signals. So now it's time for them to pony up on that.
All right, let's dig a little deeper on this with Nathan Sales, former ambassador at large and counterterrorism coordinator under the first Trump administration. So Zelensky now appears, Nathan, to have come around to want to be a partner for peace. Steve Witkoff will engage in shuttle diplomacy. He's headed for Moscow to talk with Putin. I expect that he'll probably go to Kyiv after that. What do you think the chances that this actually coming to fruition are?
It's hard to say. It really depends on what Vladimir Putin wants. And the ball really is in his court. Does Putin want peace? If he does, he has a funny way of showing it. Because look what he's done, not just what he said, but look at what he's done over the past couple of weeks. He has dramatically escalated missile attacks on Ukraine, including on Zelensky's hometown. He's publicly said, I don't think I need to make any concessions in order to get peace.
But Zelensky's been attacking Moscow at the same time. And I think there are plenty of wars where the height of the escalation happened just before the ceasefire was declared. Everybody trying to get last licks in, if you will.
Right. And the hope is that because the Ukrainians have responded to the Russian attacks by showing they can hit Russia too, that gives something that can be traded away. If the Ukrainians said, well, let's just all take our long-range options off the table, and they didn't have any, why would the Russians say yes to that? It's only because the Ukrainians are able to punch back that the Russians have an interest in saying, well, okay, we're going to stand down too.
Well, what is Russia's situation right now? Because remember, I mean, they brought in North Korean soldiers to fight their war for them. I mean, there were reports that a captured North Korean thought that they were there to shoot South Koreans. Obviously, Russia needs some manpower. And the president has said that, you know, for another reason, one that only I know, they also don't have a choice. What do you think he's talking about there?
It's a really good question. I think watch this space and see what comes out. But there's no question that the Russians are a Potemkin village, to borrow a phrase. Their economy is on life support. Their military has been revealed to be mediocre at best. I mean, what kind of army needs to depend on starving soldiers from North Korea in order to carry out an offensive? So Russia is much weaker than it looks. I think the president's instincts are right that if you push Russia just a little harder, they're actually going to come to the table in a meaningful way. We'll see. The ball's in Putin's court. Does he want peace? Actions will speak louder than words.
All right, so we want to play a little bit of what Marco Rubio said while we were in the break about the path to peace and the ways forward when you're in a situation like this. Listen to what he said.
Ukraine is ready to stop shooting and start talking. And now it'll be up to them to say yes or no. I hope they're going to say yes, and if they do, then I think we made great progress. If they say no, then we'll unfortunately know what the impediment is to peace here. But the president's been abundantly clear he wants the shooting to stop. He wants the warfare to stop. He wants the dying and the suffering to stop. And he believes, and rightfully so, that the only way to end this war is to negotiate an end to it. And we think that it's always easier to negotiate an end to the war when people aren't shooting at each other. That's how the president believes. That's what we hope to achieve. The Ukrainians today have expressed their willingness and readiness to do so immediately. We hope the Russians' answer to that will also be yes.
You know, we've talked about this before, that when you're embroiled in a war like this, there are a number of ways that you can get out of it. You can pound your enemy into submission, destroy their country. But if we tried to do that with Russia, they'd fire their nukes at us, and that'd be the end of everything, right? Or then you can kind of wear them down, make it not worth their while, like the Mujahideen did in Afghanistan, and eventually Russia pulled out after
With
2
American
years.
support.
With American support, of course. Or you could say, you know what? Everybody spent enough blood and treasure on this. We're at a disagreement, but maybe we could come to some sort of negotiated end to this. And that seems to be the avenue that they're pursuing.
Exactly right. Wars end at the negotiating table. And the key is going to be ensuring that the settlement, that the terms of the deal are ones that are acceptable to the United States and our European allies and Ukraine. What that means fundamentally is we can't simply hit pause and create the conditions that will allow Putin to restart the war sometime in the future. I get it. He's not going to invade because he understands President Trump. He's not going to push his luck with President Trump. President Trump's not going to be in office 4 years from now. And we have to worry about Putin doing what he did after the Obama administration into the Biden administration, using any pause to rearm and then re-engage. So whatever terms of the deal are being discussed now, we have to make sure that they are peace through strength, that we're not going to see a renewal of hostilities at some point in the future.
You would assume, I mean, everyone on the U.S. side has continued to reiterate that the final deal has to have a sovereign, independent Ukraine. So implicitly, those security guarantees are there, even if they're not spelled out quite yet. But, you know, the president faced a lot of criticism for the pause on intelligence sharing, especially, and also the military support. But it seems like he got out of that some willingness from Ukraine to agree to a ceasefire because they wanted those security guarantees spelled out first.
Right, yeah, and it's good to see that assistance turn back on. That means Ukraine is going to be in a better position to obtain favorable terms, negotiating from a position of strength rather than from a position of weakness. I think, you know, what we need to see now is there the same amount of goodwill and willingness on the Russian side to make hard choices? The Ukrainians have had to sort of suck it up and agree to things that they're not favorably inclined towards. What about the Russians? Are the Russians going to give up territory that they've stolen? Are they going to return children that have been kidnapped?
Well, they probably have their own set of demands, like
Exactly.
Zelensky stepping down.
Right.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Well, goodwill isn't something that Putin possesses in great quantities, so we'll see. Nathan, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.